The massive view screen aboard the Imperial Sovereignty showed nothing but stars and empty space. Admiral Kethvar adjusted his ornate uniform and smiled with satisfaction. 23 systems had fallen to the Drakmori Empire in the past solar cycle. 23 civilizations brought to heel. Status report, he commanded from his elevated throne chair. All fleets in position, Admiral, reported his aide, a nervous young officer named Tex. The human homeworld lies just beyond the asteroid field. Their primitive defense grid won't last 10 minutes against our dreadnoughts. Kethvar's 4 eyes gleamed with anticipation. Humans, such a young species. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel 50 years ago, while the Drakmori had ruled the galaxy for 3 millennia. This would be another easy conquest. Begin the attack, he ordered. The fleet of 200 warships moved forward like a steel wave of death. Each vessel bristled with plasma cannons and reality-warping weapons that could crack planets in half. The humans had managed to build a few dozen ships in their short time among the stars, but they were toys compared to Drakmori engineering. Admiral, Tex called out suddenly, his voice tight with confusion. Something's appearing on our sensors. Define something, Kethvar growled. I don't know, sir. It's unlike anything in our databases. On the view screen, space began to shimmer. Reality itself seemed to bend and twist like looking through water. Then, with no flash of light or dramatic announcement, a ship appeared. It was massive, larger than even the Imperial flagship. But it looked wrong. The hull was a strange, matte black that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. No visible weapons, no obvious engines. It simply hung in space like a dark monument to something beyond understanding. What is that? Kethvar whispered. Before anyone could answer, every screen on the bridge flickered. An image appeared, a human face, male, middle-aged, with graying hair and calm eyes that held depths of knowledge that made Kethvar's skin crawl. Drakmori, fleet, the human said in perfect galactic standard. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth defense ship Prometheus. You are approaching a protected world. Turn back now. Kethvar burst into laughter. One ship? You send one ship against my entire fleet? He leaned forward. Human, I will give you one chance to surrender. Your technology is primitive. Your weapons are toys. Submit now, and I will make your species' enslavement swift. The human's expression didn't change. Admiral, you don't understand. This isn't a threat. This is a courtesy warning. Last chance, turn back. Destroy them, Kethvar snarled. Every weapon in the Drakmori fleet fired at once. The space around the human ship lit up like a newborn star as enough firepower to level continents struck their target. When the light faded, the black ship remained untouched. Not a single scorch mark marred its hull. How? Tex whispered. The human on the screen sighed. I'm sorry it's come to this. The black ship didn't fire weapons. It didn't launch missiles. It simply existed. And the Drakmori fleet began to die. Ships didn't explode. They didn't break apart. They simply stopped being. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. Not destroyed, but erased from reality, as if they had never existed at all. In 30 seconds, 200 warships and their crews vanished. Only the flagship remained. What are you? Kethvar breathed. The human's eyes held something that might have been pity. We're what happens when a species realizes that the universe is much stranger than it appears, and much more dangerous. The view screen went dark, the black ship vanished, and Admiral Kethvar was left alone in space, the sole survivor of the greatest fleet in galactic history, trying to understand what he had just witnessed. But that was only the beginning. Chapter 1. The Messenger. 3 days after the incident at Earth, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The vast amphitheater on Centralis Prime had hosted countless debates over the millennia, but never one quite like this. Counselor Zarathus of the Ethereal Collective stood at the central podium, her translucent form shimmering with agitation. The Drakmori Empire's first fleet has been neutralized. Admiral Kethvar's report defies all understanding of physics and warfare. Murmurs rippled through the assembly. The Drakmori Empire was the dominant military power in the galaxy. Their fleets had crushed rebellions, conquered worlds, and maintained order through superior firepower for 3,000 years. If they could be defeated so easily— "With respect, Counselor," interrupted General Vextar of the Hegemony, his mechanical voice cutting through the chatter. "One survivor's account hardly constitutes reliable intelligence. Perhaps the Admiral fabricated this story to cover a tactical disaster." "I've reviewed the sensor logs," Zarathus replied coolly. "They are authentic. The question before us is not whether this happened, but what it means for galactic stability." At the back of the amphitheater, a figure in a simple gray robe raised one hand. The gesture was subtle, but the entire assembly fell silent. Even the most powerful beings in the galaxy knew better than to ignore the observers. "The observers have monitored this species called humanity for some time," the robed figure said, its voice carrying despite speaking barely above a whisper. "They are unusual." "Unusual how?" demanded Counselor Brekthar, his massive form hunched over the speaking pit. "They barely discovered antimatter 50 years ago. They have no psionic abilities. They can't manipulate dark matter or fold spacetime. By every measure, they're primitives." "By every measure, you understand," the observer corrected. "But consider this. In 50 years, they went from crude chemical rockets to faster-than-light travel. Most species take millennia to make such leaps. The humans did it in 2 generations. Rapid technological advancement isn't unprecedented," General Vextar noted. "No," the observer agreed, "but the nature of their advancement is. They don't follow conventional paths. While other species perfect energy weapons, humans experiment with reality manipulation. While others build bigger ships, humans build ships that exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously." The amphitheater erupted in debate. Such technologies were theoretical at best, impossible at worst. "You're suggesting they've mastered exotic physics?" Zarathus asked. "I'm suggesting," the observer said, "that humans don't see the universe the way we do. To us, physical laws are constraints. To them, they're suggestions." Before anyone could respond, alarms began wailing throughout the chamber. Security Chief Drakmore's urgent voice echoed from the speakers. "All counselors to secured positions. Unknown vessel approaching Centralis Prime." It appeared without transition. No hyperspace signatures, no dimensional rifts. It's just there. Through the amphitheater's transparent dome, they could see it. A sleek ship of unfamiliar design, hovering above the planet's capital. It was much smaller than the black ship that had destroyed the Drakmori fleet, but it radiated the same sense of wrongness, as if it existed slightly outside normal spacetime. "Incoming transmission," Drakmore announced. The air above the central podium shimmered and a hologram appeared. It was a human woman, perhaps 30 years old, with short black hair and intelligent eyes. She wore a simple uniform with no visible rank insignia. "Honorable counselors," she said with a slight bow, "I am Commander Sarah Torres of the Earth Diplomatic Corps. I apologize for the dramatic entrance, but recent events require urgent discussion." "How did you get past our defense grid?" "General," Vextar demanded. "We asked it politely to let us through," Torres replied with a straight face. "Your AI systems are quite reasonable once you approach them correctly." Several counselors sputtered in outrage. The Centralis defense grid was the most sophisticated in the galaxy, protected by AI systems with quantum encrypted cores. The idea that someone could simply ask them to stand down was absurd. "You're claiming you conversed with our security systems?" Brekthar growled. "All intelligence is curious, Counselor, even artificial intelligence. When you present it with something genuinely interesting, it wants to learn more. We simply shared some interesting mathematical theorems with your defense computers. They found them so fascinating that they forgot to shoot at us." The observer leaned forward. "What theorems?" Torres smiled. "Ones that describe how consciousness can influence quantum mechanics. Your AIs found the implications thought-provoking. Impossible," General Vextar stated flatly. Consciousness cannot affect physical reality. Really? Torres tilted her head. Then how do you explain what happened to the Drakmori fleet? The question hung in the air like a physical weight. The council requires an explanation, Zarathus said carefully. What exactly are humans and what do you want? Torres was quiet for a moment, as if choosing her words carefully. What we are is complicated. What we want is simple, to be left alone to develop in peace. But it seems the galaxy has other plans. The Drakmori Empire will not accept this defeat, Brekthar warned. They're already mobilizing their reserve fleets, millions of ships, countless billions of soldiers. You cannot fight the entire empire. We don't want to fight anyone, Torres said softly. But we will if we must. And if we must? She paused, her expression growing distant. The Drakmori Empire has never faced anything like us. Neither has the galaxy. That sounds like a threat, General Vextar observed. It's a statement of fact, Torres replied. Counselors, humanity stands at a crossroads. We can remain isolated, continuing our research and development in peace, or we can involve ourselves in galactic affairs. The choice is yours. And if we choose to treat you as a threat? Zarathus asked. Torres's expression grew sad. Then you'll discover why every advanced species in the universe either learns to coexist or learns to hide. There are predators in the dark between stars, counselors, ancient things that feed on civilizations. We've been fighting them for longer than you might imagine. The amphitheater fell silent. What predators? The observer asked quietly. You call them the Devourers, Torres said. We call them Tuesday. With that cryptic statement, her hologram flickered and vanished. The human ship above Centralis Prime simply wasn't there anymore. And the Galaxy Council was left with more questions than answers, and the growing certainty that everything they thought they knew about the universe was about to change. Chapter 2. The Hunt. Begin's Emperor Krathdor stood in the war room of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, studying the tactical display with his 6 advisors. The holographic map showed the entire galaxy, with red markers indicating Drakmori fleet positions and a single blue dot marking Earth's location. Status report, he commanded. General Mordek, his most trusted military advisor, stepped forward. All reserve fleets have been mobilized, Your Majesty. 5,000 ships from the Inner Rim, 3,000 from the border worlds, and 2,000 from our vassal states. The largest armada in galactic history, 10,000 vessels strong. And our allies? The hegemony has pledged 1,000 ships. The consortium will provide logistical support. The ethereal collective offers their mind weavers for intelligence gathering. Mordek paused. However, the observers have remained neutral, and several minor species have declined to participate. Krathdor's mandibles clicked in annoyance. They fear these humans. They fear what they don't understand. Your Majesty, the footage from Admiral Kethvar's encounter has leaked through unofficial channels. Many are calling it impossible, fabricated, or... Mordek hesitated. Or evidence that humanity possesses technology beyond our comprehension. The Emperor's 4 eyes narrowed. Technology can be captured, reverse-engineered, improved upon. These humans have one ship that can perform unusual tricks. We have 10,000 ships and the combined military might of half the galaxy. Numbers will prevail. Science advisor Yethris cleared her throat. Your Majesty, our preliminary analysis of the encounter suggests that the human vessel didn't actually use weapons in any conventional sense. The Drakmori ships weren't destroyed. They were deleted, as if reality itself forgot they existed. Nonsense, General Mordek scoffed. Nothing can simply erase matter from existence. It violates the fundamental laws of physics. Perhaps, Yethris replied carefully, but so did faster-than-light travel, until we discovered how to manipulate space-time. Perhaps these humans have discovered something we haven't. Before the Emperor could respond, Communications Officer Vraltok rushed into the chamber. Your Majesty, Urgent transmission from the Advanced Scout Fleet. Put it through. The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Kesevar commanding the fastest ships in the Drakmori fleet. But something was wrong. The Admiral looked shaken, her normally perfect uniform disheveled. "Your Majesty," she said, her voice tight with fear. "We've reached the Sol system. The humans. They're waiting for us." "How many ships?" "That's just it, Your Majesty. There's only one." The display shifted to show external sensors. There, hanging in space near Earth's moon, was a ship unlike anything in the Drakmori databases. It was enormous, easily the size of a space station, but shaped like a perfect sphere. Its surface was mirror smooth, reflecting the stars around it like a giant cosmic marble. "We've been scanning it for the past hour," Admiral Kesevar continued. "No weapon signatures, no energy readings, no communication attempts. It's just there. Attack it," Emperor Krathdor commanded. "Sir, with respect, after what happened to Admiral Kethvar, attack it now," the Emperor roared. On the display, they watched as the advance fleet's 12 ships opened fire. Plasma bolts, antimatter torpedoes, and reality-warping beams struck the spherical ship. Nothing happened. The weapons simply vanished upon contact, as if the sphere absorbed everything and gave nothing back. "Impossible," General Mordek whispered. Then, the sphere moved. It didn't accelerate or show any propulsion. One moment it was stationary, the next it was directly in front of the lead ship. Admiral Kesevar's vessel, the Swift Retribution, suddenly found itself face to face with something that defied explanation. "Admiral, report," the Emperor demanded. "Your Majesty, it's beautiful," Kesevar whispered, her voice filled with, "Horsia, the surface isn't solid. It's like looking into the deepest ocean but made of stars. I can see everything. The birth of galaxies, the death of suns, the dance of cosmic forces beyond imagination. Admiral, respond." But Kesevar was no longer looking at her communication screen. She was staring at the sphere, and through the video feed they could see tears streaming down her face. "It's showing me the truth," she whispered. "About the universe. About what lies beyond, about what we really are." Her voice grew distant. "We're so small, so young, so afraid of things we don't understand." The sphere pulsed once with soft white light. Admiral Kesevar's ship powered down. Not destroyed, not damaged, simply deactivated. The other 11 ships in the fleet did the same, their crews apparently unharmed but unresponsive. "What did you do?" Emperor Krathdor shouted at the display. The sphere turned toward the camera as if it could see through space to the eternal dominion itself. For a moment the Emperor felt something vast and alien touch his mind. Not hostile, but so immeasurably ancient and wise that his consciousness recoiled in terror. Then a voice spoke, not through the communication system, but directly into the minds of everyone in the war room. "Your people are afraid. This is understandable. Fear is a survival mechanism, but fear unchecked becomes hatred, and hatred becomes destruction. We do not wish to destroy you. We wish to offer you something better." "What?" the Emperor managed to gasp. "Understanding. But first you must stop. Turn your fleets away. Return to your worlds. Consider what you have seen." "Never," Krathdor snarled. "The Drakmori Empire bows to no one." The presence in his mind grew sad. "Then you will learn what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. We had hoped to avoid this lesson." The sphere vanished. Admiral Kesevar and her crews remained in their powerless ships, but they were no longer catatonic. Instead, they were talking amongst themselves, their conversations filled with wonder and excitement about what they had experienced. "Your Majesty," General Mordek said quietly, "perhaps we should reconsider our approach." "Never," the Emperor repeated. "Ready the main fleet. We advance to Earth in 6 hours." But as the Eternal Dominion and its escorts prepared for what would be the largest military action in galactic history, none of them noticed the small, dark objects that had appeared throughout their fleet. Objects that looked like tiny seeds, no larger than marbles, drifting unnoticed through space. The humans had not been idle, and the Emperor was about to learn that some forces in the universe could not be conquered by numbers alone. Chapter. For the storm, the main Drakmori fleet stretched across space like a metallic constellation. 10,000 ships arranged in perfect battle formation, their weapons powered, their crews ready for glory. Emperor Krathdor stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, watching the tactical display with grim satisfaction. All fleets report. Ready, Your Majesty, General Mordek announced. Long-range sensors show Earth's defensive positions. Approximately 50 ships guarding the planet, along with various space stations and orbital platforms. 50 ships against 10,000, the Emperor mused. I almost feel sorry for them. Sir, Communications Officer Vraltok interrupted. We're receiving a transmission from Earth. Put it through. The main screen flickered to life, showing a human man in his 40s wearing a simple naval uniform. He had weathered features and calm, intelligent eyes that seemed far older than his face. I am Admiral James Harrison of the Earth Defense Force, he said without preamble. Emperor Krathdor, I'm speaking to you directly in the hope that we can avoid unnecessary bloodshed. The only blood that will be shed today is human, the Emperor replied coldly. Surrender now and I will consider allowing your species to serve as laborers in the outer colonies. Admiral Harrison's expression didn't change. I've reviewed your military records, Emperor. 500 major battles, 3,000 minor engagements. You've conquered 47 species. Your tactical skills are impressive. Flattery will not save you. It's not flattery, it's context. Harrison leaned forward slightly. You've never fought a war against an enemy that could see your every move before you made it. You've never faced weapons that exist in 11 dimensions simultaneously. You've never encountered a species that learned to manipulate the fundamental forces of reality because their home planet tried to kill them for 4 billion years. More boasts, General Mordek scoffed. Your people are barely 50 years in space. Buyer's Summer Chapter 4. The New Dawn 6. Months after the Battle of Sol, the galaxy was a very different place. Ambassador Sarah Chen, promoted from her previous role as Commander Torres, stood in the newly constructed Harmony Station, orbiting the neutral moon of Kepler 442b. The station itself was a marvel of interspecies cooperation. Human quantum architecture merged with ethereal energy manipulation, supported by hegemony engineering and enhanced with Drakmori metallurgy. Through the observation deck's transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docked at the station's ports. Former enemies now worked side by side, sharing knowledge and resources in ways that would have been unthinkable a year ago. The morning briefing ambassador, her aide, Marcus Rivera, announced as he approached with a datapad. Go ahead, Marcus. The consortium has agreed to open 3 more trade routes through human space. The Ethereal Collective is requesting permission to establish a meditation center on Luna. And, he paused, looking up from the pad with amazement still clear on his face. The Drakmori Senate has voted to officially apologize for their attempted invasion and has offered to share their military defensive technologies with the Earth Defense Force. Sarah nodded, unsurprised. The galaxy was still adjusting to the new reality, but the changes were accelerating. What about the Emperor? He's still on the Eternal Dominion, but our psychological evaluators say he's making progress. The isolation therapy is helping him process the trauma of losing his entire fleet. When he's ready, he'll be offered the same choice as his people. And how many have chosen to return so far? Marcus checked his notes. 47,000 at last count, about 12% of the original fleet. Most are choosing to remain in the quantum matrices while they continue their education about interspecies cooperation. That's 50 years. Longer than we needed, Harrison replied. Emperor, I'm going to show you something. Not to threaten you, but to help you understand what you're really facing. The human admiral gestured to someone off-screen. Lieutenant Chen, would you mind? A young woman's voice replied, Aye, sir, activating demonstration mode. Space around the human fleet began to change. At first it was subtle, a slight shimmer in the starlight like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Then the effect intensified. The stars themselves began to bend and twist, their light creating impossible patterns as space-time warped around the human ships. "What are they doing?" Science advisor Yethris whispered. The answer came as reality folded in on itself. The 50 human ships didn't disappear, they multiplied. Each vessel created copies of itself, dozens of them, then hundreds, then thousands. In moments, the human fleet went from 50 ships to 50,000, each one as real and solid as the original. "Holographic projections," General Mordek said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Not holograms," Harrison said calmly. "Quantum echoes. Each ship exists in a slightly different probability state. They're all equally real until the wave function collapses. The question is, which ones are the originals?" Emperor Krathdor stared at the display in growing horror. His 10,000 ships suddenly looked very small against this impossible fleet. "It's a trick," he said, but even he didn't sound convinced. "Perhaps," Harrison agreed, "but can you afford to guess wrong? Every one of those ships can fire real weapons, carry real crews, cause real damage. Or maybe they're all illusions. Or maybe there's something else entirely, something that exists between what is and what could be." The quantum fleet began to move, the thousands of ships flowing through space like schools of fish, their formation patterns shifting in ways that hurt to watch. They weren't following normal physics. They were creating their own physics as they moved. "This is impossible," Yethris breathed. "No," Harrison said, his voice carrying across the communication channel. "This is human. We don't accept that things are impossible. We just haven't figured out how to do them yet." The Emperor's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. "You're bluffing. This is some kind of elaborate sensor deception." "Maybe," Harrison replied. "Would you like to find out?" For a long moment, silence filled the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. The Emperor stared at the impossible fleet, his military mind trying to calculate odds that no longer made sense. "Sir," General Mordek said quietly, "perhaps we should—" "No," Krathdor roared. "I will not be intimidated by parlor tricks. All ships, attack formation. Prepare to—" He was interrupted by a new voice, one that seemed to come from everywhere, and nowhere at once. It was ancient, patient, and utterly alien. "Enough." The space between the two fleets rippled, and something vast began to emerge from the quantum foam itself. It wasn't a ship. It was more like a living structure, organic and crystalline at the same time. It was easily the size of a moon, and it radiated power that made the Emperor's bones ache. The lesson has been offered gently. It has been offered with wisdom. It has been offered with patience. Now, it will be offered with consequences. Admiral Harrison's expression grew grim. "Emperor, I strongly suggest you order your fleet to withdraw. What you're seeing is not under human control." "What is it?" the Emperor whispered. "We are what humanity became when they stopped fearing the dark between stars and started learning from it. We are what your species could become if you chose wisdom over conquest." The massive entity pulsed with soft light, and suddenly every screen in the Drakmori fleet showed the same image. Earth, but not as it appeared to normal sensors. This was Earth as it truly was, surrounded by structures that existed in higher dimensions, protected by technologies that had been built not just in space, but in time itself. For 3 billion years, we guided this species through trials that would have destroyed any other race. We taught them to survive not by conquering their environment, but by understanding it. We showed them that strength comes not from dominance, but from harmony with forces greater than themselves. "You're their gods," General Mordek said in awe. "We are their children. What they became after they learned to transcend physical existence. What they will become when they finish their current evolution." The Emperor's 4 eyes widened in horror as understanding dawned. "You're saying humans are becoming like you?" "All intelligent species have this potential. Most choose fear and aggression. They destroy themselves or others destroy them. Humans chose differently. They chose to become partners with the universe rather than conquerors of it." Admiral Harrison's voice cut through the cosmic dialogue. "Emperor, this is your last chance. Withdraw your fleets. Return to your worlds. Learn from what you've seen here. or face the consequences of attacking a species that has guardians spanning multiple dimensions of reality. The Emperor looked at his tactical display. 10,000 ships against 50,000 quantum echoes, protected by entities that existed beyond normal spacetime. The mathematics of warfare had become meaningless. But pride. Pride was a poison that ran deep in Drakmori blood. "Attack," he whispered. "Sir?" General Mordek asked, hoping he had misheard. "Attack," the Emperor roared. The Drakmori fleet opened fire, and learned that some battles cannot be won, no matter how many ships you bring. The quantum human fleet didn't return fire. Instead, they did something far more terrifying. They became real. All of them. Every single impossible ship solidified into normal space-time, armed with weapons that drew power from the birth of stars and the death of black holes. The battle lasted exactly 4 minutes and 37 seconds. When it was over, the Drakmori Empire's greatest fleet was gone. Not destroyed, transcended. Every ship, every crew member, every weapon system had been converted into pure information and stored in quantum matrices where they could exist in perfect simulation of their former lives, but without the ability to cause harm. Emperor Krathdor found himself alone on the bridge of the Eternal Dominion, the only ship left untouched. Around him, his officers had vanished, leaving only empty uniforms and the echo of their final thoughts. Admiral Harrison appeared on the main screen one last time. "Emperor," he said sadly, "your people are not gone. They're being cared for in a place where they can learn without the burden of hatred or fear. In time, if they choose, they can return to physical existence. But first, they must understand what they've truly been fighting." "What have I done?" the Emperor whispered. "You've given your species a chance to grow beyond what they were. That's more than most conquerors achieve." Harrison's image began to fade. "The galaxy is about to change, Emperor. The old ways of thinking, might makes right, survival of the strongest, conquer or be conquered, those days are ending. Your choice is whether to be part of that change or be consumed by it." The transmission ended. The Eternal Dominion hung alone in space, its emperor staring out at the stars and wondering if wisdom could ever truly conquer pride. Behind him, unnoticed, small seeds of light began to sprout in the empty air. The first signs that even pride could bloom into something beautiful, given time and proper care, and the true nature of the universe. Sarah walked to the window and gazed out at the bustling station. In the distance, she could see the sleek form of the Prometheus, the same ship that had destroyed the Drakmori's first fleet. It looked small and peaceful now, more like a research vessel than a weapon of unimaginable power. "It's working," she said quietly. "Ma'am?" "The integration protocol. When Dr. Yamoto first proposed it 50 years ago, most people thought she was insane. The idea that we could fundamentally change how galactic civilization operates by demonstrating a better way rather than conquering or destroying. It seemed too idealistic." Marcus joined her at the window. "The observers say something like this was inevitable. They claim that every galaxy goes through this transition eventually, the moment when the various species either learn to transcend their primitive instincts or destroy themselves trying. And we're one of the first to choose transcendence?" "This galaxy, yes. Apparently there are others scattered throughout the universe, species that made similar choices. The observers call them gardener civilizations, races that tend to the growth of younger species rather than dominating them." Sarah smiled. "I like that. Gardeners." She turned back to Marcus. "What's the status on the deep space monitoring project?" "Phase 1 is complete. We've established quantum observation posts in 47 star systems, all monitoring for signs of the entities you encountered in the Void War." Sarah's expression grew serious. The Void War, humanity's first contact with the ancient predators that fed on civilizations. It had been a conflict fought not with ships and weapons, but with ideas and evolution itself. The war that had forced humanity to transcend their physical limitations and become something greater. "Any signs of activity?" None so far. But Dr. Yamamoto's team believes that our rapid expansion of consciousness across the galaxy may have created a deterrent effect. The void feeders prefer to hunt species that are isolated and afraid. We're neither of those things anymore. Good. Sarah turned back to the window, watching as a group of young Drakmorian humans worked together to repair a damaged transport ship. The Drakmori were teaching the humans advanced metallurgy techniques, while the humans shared their quantum welding technology. Marcus, do you remember the first time you saw the Earth from space? Yes, ma'am. It was humbling, beautiful, and terrifying at the same time. I had the same reaction. It made me realize how small we were, how fragile our little world seemed in the vastness of space. But now, she gestured at the scene outside. Now I see something different. I see that small, fragile things can become the seeds of something magnificent if they're given the right conditions to grow. The harmony doctrine. Exactly. The idea that cooperation and understanding can achieve what force and conquest never could. She paused, watching as the repair work continued. I just hope we're strong enough to protect what we're building. Not everyone in the galaxy is ready for this kind of change. As if summoned by her words, the station's communication system activated. Ambassador Chen, please report to the main conference room. Priority 1 transmission incoming. Sarah and Marcus exchanged glances. Priority 1 meant either very good news or very bad news, and experience had taught them to expect the latter. The conference room was already bustling with activity when they arrived. Admiral Harrison was there, along with representatives from the major species alliances. The large holographic display showed a star map with a pulsing red indicator in the outer rim. What's the situation? Sarah asked. Admiral Harrison's expression was grim. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching from the Andromeda galaxy. Estimated arrival time, 6 months. Andromeda? Sarah felt her heart skip. That's impossible. No known species has the technology for intergalactic travel. No known species from our galaxy, corrected Dr. Yamamoto, who had been studying the sensor data. But the fleet composition is unlike anything in our databases. The ships appear to be constructed from dark matter, and they're using some form of exotic propulsion that creates ripples in the fabric of space-time itself. How many ships? Approximately 1 million vessels, each one roughly the size of our largest space stations. The room fell silent. Even the combined might of the new Galactic Alliance would be hard-pressed to face such a force. Have we attempted communication? Sarah asked. Multiple attempts, all frequencies, including quantum entanglement messaging. Admiral Harrison replied. No response. However, we did detect one transmission from the fleet, a single message broadcast on all channels. What did it say? Dr. Yamamoto activated the playback system. A voice filled the room, ancient, cold, and utterly without emotion. The harvest begins. Prepare for consumption. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. This was what humanity had feared since the Void War, the arrival of something that viewed entire galaxies as nothing more than food sources. The harvesters, she whispered. You know what they are? Admiral Harrison asked. We've encountered their kind before. Not them specifically, but entities like them. Beings that consume civilizations not for resources or territory, but for the consciousness itself. They feed on the collected thoughts, dreams, and experiences of entire species. Dr. Yamamoto looked up from her data analysis. That would explain the dark matter construction. They're not bound by the same physical limitations as matter-based life forms. They can exist in the spaces between atoms, in the quantum foam itself. And we fight them? Asked General Mordek, who had been quietly observing from the corner. The former Drakmori military leader had requested to join the alliance after his own transcendence experience, and his tactical knowledge had proven invaluable. Sarah was quiet for a long moment, staring at the display. Not in any conventional sense. Physical weapons are useless against beings that exist partially outside normal space-time, but we have something they don't expect. What? Unity. Every species they've encountered before has been isolated, afraid, fighting amongst themselves. They've never faced a galaxy that had learned to work together. Admiral Harrison nodded slowly. The Combined Consciousness Protocol. You're talking about linking every sapient mind in the galaxy into a single, unified defensive network. It's been theoretical until now, Dr. Yamato said. The quantum processing power required would be enormous. We'd need every advanced species to contribute their entire technological infrastructure. And the risks? General Mordek asked. If it fails, we lose everything. If it succeeds? Sarah paused. We might evolve beyond physical existence entirely. We could become something like our Gardner Guardians, entities that exist across multiple dimensions of reality. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. They were talking about the voluntary evolution of an entire galaxy's worth of consciousness into something beyond current understanding. There's another option, Admiral Harrison said quietly. We could run. Humanity has the technology for intergalactic travel now. We could evacuate the most advanced species to other galaxies, leave the harvesters with empty worlds, and abandon billions of sentient beings? Sarah shook her head. That's not who we are anymore. We're gardeners, remember? We don't abandon our garden when the weeds show up. We find a way to protect it. Dr. Yamamoto's eyes lit up as she studied the data. Wait, there might be a third option. The harvesters are using dark matter construction, but they're still following the basic laws of physics. If we could find a way to disrupt their quantum coherence. You're talking about turning their own existence against them, General Mordek said with admiration. Elegant. It would require precise coordination across the entire galaxy, Dr. Yamamoto continued. Every species would need to synchronize their quantum field generators at exactly the same moment. 1 second of deviation and the field collapse would tear apart local spacetime. Sarah looked around the room at the assembled representatives. 6 months ago, these beings had been enemies or strangers. Now they were discussing the fate of their entire galaxy as partners. How long do we have to prepare? 6 months until they reach the outer rim, Admiral Harrison replied. But based on their current trajectory, they'll start harvesting the outer worlds immediately. We'll lose entire systems before they reach the core worlds. Then we need to move fast. Sarah turned to the communication console. Open a channel to every world in the Alliance. Full broadcast, all frequencies. Channel open, Ambassador. Sarah took a deep breath. What she was about to propose would change the galaxy forever, one way or another. Citizens of the Galactic Harmony Alliance, she began. 6 months ago, we faced a choice between conquest and cooperation. We chose cooperation, and in doing so we began to build something unprecedented in galactic history, a civilization based on mutual understanding rather than mutual fear. She paused, letting her words sink in across hundreds of worlds. Today, we face another choice. In 6 months, beings from beyond our galaxy will arrive with the intention of consuming every conscious mind in our spiral arm. They view us not as people, but as food. They have destroyed countless civilizations across the universe, and they expect us to be just another easy meal. The weight of her words hung in the air. They are wrong. We are not the same scattered, fearful species they have encountered before. We are unified. We are prepared, and we are about to show them what happens when a galaxy learns to think as one. She looked directly into the camera, knowing that her words were being heard by billions of beings across hundreds of worlds. The Combined Consciousness Protocol will be activated in 180 days. Every species, every world, every individual will be invited to join their minds in the greatest cooperative effort in galactic history. Together, we will create a defensive network that spans space and time itself. Together, we will show these harvesters that some gardens are too well tended to be consumed. The transmission ended and the room fell silent. Think it will work? Marcus asked quietly. Sarah smiled, but her eyes held depths of determination that seemed almost inhuman. Marcus, 6 months ago, a single human ship destroyed the most powerful fleet in the galaxy without firing a shot. 3 months ago, former Enemies were working together to build cooperative space stations. Today we're talking about the voluntary evolution of galactic consciousness. She gestured toward the star map where the approaching harvester fleet was marked in pulsing red. Those beings out there think they're coming to harvest a galaxy of primitive, isolated species. They're about to discover that they're approaching a garden tended by gods. The red markers on the display continued their steady approach, but somehow they seemed less threatening now. The galaxy had faced the impossible before and emerged stronger. It was about to do so again. Epilogue. The garden grows 1 year after the Harvester crisis. Sarah Chen stood in the observation deck of New Harmony Station, watching the construction of humanity's first truly intergalactic vessel. The ship was unlike anything that had existed before. Part matter, part energy, part pure consciousness, made manifest. It would carry the first galactic gardener mission to a distant galaxy where young civilizations were just beginning to discover fire. "The final reports, Ambassador," Marcus said, approaching with a smile on his face. In the months since the crisis, he had evolved along with the rest of humanity. His consciousness expanded to encompass perspectives that spanned multiple dimensions of reality. How did we do? The Harvester fleet was, well, defeated. Isn't quite the right word. They were transformed. When the combined consciousness protocol activated and every mind in the galaxy spoke as one, the Harvesters experienced something they had never encountered before: the offer of true communication instead of conquest. Sarah nodded. And they chose to listen? Most of them. It turns out that even cosmic predators can learn and grow when presented with genuine alternatives. About 60% of their fleet chose to join the Galactic Harmony Alliance. The rest decided to return to Andromeda to share what they had learned with their own species. And the galaxy? Marcus consulted his notes, though both of them knew the information by heart. 147 species participated in the protocol. The consciousness network is now permanent, allowing instantaneous communication and cooperation across the entire galaxy. Interstellar travel time has been reduced to hours instead of months. Scientific advancement has accelerated by several orders of magnitude. Any regrets? None reported. The voluntary nature of the transformation meant that every participant chose their level of involvement. Some species chose full integration. Others maintained their individual identities while participating in the greater network. Everyone found their place. Sarah smiled, remembering her own transformation. She was still human, still Sarah Chen, but she was also something more. A node in a vast network of consciousness that spanned the galaxy. She could feel the thoughts and dreams of billions of beings, their hopes and fears, their love and wonder at the universe they shared. What about the Drakmori? Emperor Krathdor chose full integration last month. He's leading the new diplomatic corps, using his military experience to help other species understand the benefits of cooperation over conquest. Apparently, he's quite good at it. And Dr. Yamoto's Deep Universe project? The quantum telescopes are detecting at least 47 other gardener civilizations in nearby galaxies. Contact protocols are being established. We're not alone in the universe, not by a long shot. Sarah turned back to the window, watching as the intergalactic ship's construction continued. Human workers moved alongside beings of pure energy. Matter-based entities cooperated with consciousness-based ones. And the boundaries between species had become fluid and beautiful. "You know," she said quietly, "when I was a child, I used to look up at the stars and wonder if anyone was looking back. I imagined first contact as this dramatic moment. Ships arriving, ambassadors meeting, the universe suddenly becoming a bigger place. And now? Now I realize that the universe was always vast and full of wonders. We just had to learn how to see them. The real first contact wasn't between species. It was between ways of thinking, between fear and wonder, between conquest and cooperation." Marcus joined her at the window. "Where do you think we'll go next?" Sarah's consciousness expanded outward, touching the edges of the galactic network, feeling the pulse of billions of minds working together toward common goals. In the distance, she could sense the approaching thoughts of other gardener civilizations, ancient and wise, welcoming the galaxy's newest members to a community that spanned the observable universe. Everywhere, she said softly. We'll go everywhere. We'll tend gardens on worlds that haven't been born yet. We'll help species that are still learning to use tools. We'll explore dimensions of reality that we can't even imagine. She paused, feeling the vast contentment of a galaxy at peace with itself and ready to share that peace with others. But first, she said with a grin that was purely human, despite everything she had become, we should probably send a message to Earth. Mom's going to want to know how the family business is going. Marcus laughed, a sound that rippled through the consciousness network and brought smiles to beings across the galaxy. Outside the window, the intergalactic ship's construction continued, its hull gleaming with the promise of new adventures and undiscovered wonders. The galaxy had learned to think as one, and in doing so had discovered that the universe was far more beautiful and full of possibility than anyone had ever dared to imagine. The garden was growing, and there was no limit to how far its roots might spread. In the depths of space, the stars themselves seemed to pulse with approval, as if the universe itself was smiling at what its children had become. The unknown ship had appeared, then vanished, leaving behind a galaxy transformed, and the Empire, any empire, never stood a chance against the power of beings who had learned that the greatest strength comes not from conquest, but from the courage to plant seeds in the infinite garden of possibility.